Okay, so here we go. As we scored accordingly, those of you who haven't done it yet, just start doing whatever you do. What we're doing here isn't going to make any sense. So, you want to go work in the hallway, or you want to sit here? What do you want to do? Riz? Okay. I just, it's 40 minutes of your time, so whatever is the most productive way for you to make use of it. All right, so you should have this set up here. We would go from 0 to 1.807 of g of x minus f of x dx. And your answer should be 2.037 or 2.038. You would get 1 point for the integral. You would get 1 point for the bounds. And you get 1 point for the answer. Does everybody understand where you get your points from there? So again, the bounds, if you just had integral g of x minus f of x dx, that would give you a point just right there. Yes? Yep, exactly. So long as you have something marked here, say p is equal to 1.807, something of that nature. You all good with that? Excellent question. Find the volume when r is rotated about the horizontal line. You should get a washer, and you would have pi times the integral 0 to 1.807 times g of x. It's g of x minus -1, so it's plus 1 quantity squared, minus f of x plus 1 quantity squared, and dx. So that's that integral. You should have, again, 1 point for the integral. You should have 1 point for the bounds. And you should have 1 point for the answer. Yeah, good question. So I'm not going to mark it wrong on the test if you forget d of dx. If you don't write dx on the test, it's not correct. 12.660. Or, otherwise known as, maybe you left your answer like this, 4.029 pi. Does that, anybody leave the pi attached on there? Okay, so either way you express it would be fine. Yeah, I remember the last Calc 1 test I took, my professor, he gave me a 98 out of 100. And I said, I had my answer right. And he said, yeah, but you didn't put a dx in the problem. And I said, well, is that really important? He said, yeah. So I won't mark it off, but the AP exam will. Okay. All right, here we go. And the last one, you should have the integral 0 to 1.807. It says isosceles right triangle. So you can have the 1/2 out in front, or you could have the 1/2 here. But it's g of x minus f of x, that quantity squared dx. And you should get 1.509. Again, you got 1 point for the integral. You got 1 point for the bounds. And you got 1 point for the answer. So on your front page, you want to write how many you got out of 9. Right? How many you got out of 9? Any questions on the scoring for that part? Anything that you had different? Anything you want to talk about? Going once, twice, thrice. There we go. Let's flip it over. Particle of motion. Love these problems. Determine the velocity of particle time, t of 0.5. So you'd have v of 1/2. And I'm not marking it wrong if you don't have the v of 1/2. I would just encourage you, please write that down on your AP exam. The more you write, the better it is. You're communicating to whoever's reading it. Just remember, I know you very well. Whoever's grading your AP exam doesn't really know you at all. I should say doesn't really know you. They definitely don't know you at all, right? Like it's like a 1 in 5 billion chance that they know you. They don't know you. -0.665. So 1 point for having -0.665. Determine the acceleration. The acceleration of 1/2 is going to be equal to v prime of 1/2. So that's the work that you would want to write down, and you get -1.018, and you would get 1 point for doing that. Okay, is the particle speeding up or slowing down? Speeding up. And you get 1 point for that. it says justify your answer. The answer would be a of 1/2 and v of 1/2 are same sign. So they're the same sign, so therefore it's a, yeah, so you get a point for that. When does the particle change direction from 0 to 3? So when the particle changes direction, you're looking for v prime of t to change sign. It's so important on the exam if they ask when does it change direction that you recognize that you're looking for where v prime of t changes sign. A lot of times we say look for where v prime of t is equal to 0. So I'm gonna have motion here where my velocity is equal to 0. Okay. Did I change direction? No, but the velocity was equal to 0 on my walk, wasn't it? So just saying v is equal to 0 does not quite work. I'm sorry, I said v prime of t. It's just v of t. When does the velocity change sign? When does the velocity change sign? And that happens at time is equal to 1.701. V of t changes negative to positive. Okay, so that's worth 1 point if you came up with the 1.701. Find the position of the particle. So position is going to be -4 plus the integral 0 to 3 of v of t dt. So we have the start plus the displacement, and you should get -1.725. And this is worth 2 points. One for the integral and one for the answer. So, if you typed it in correctly to your, as long as you wrote it down, you could get a point. Whether or not you typed it in correctly to a calculator, that I can't say for sure. Or for me, my biggest mistake is I would not put the plus -4 on the end afterwards. Find the total distance traveled between 1 and 2. Total distance is going to be the integral 1 to 2 of the absolute value of v of t dt. Okay? And that should be equal to 4.287 or 4.288. We're going to give you 3 points for this one. One for the bounds, one for the integral, and one for the answer. Average velocity will be the average value of the velocity function, which will be 1 over 3 integral 0 to 3 of v of t dt. And that result should be 0.758. You get 1 for the integral and 1 for the answer. Find the average acceleration from time 1 to 3. That would be v of 3 minus v of 1 divided by 3 minus 1. And I got 3.368, and you got 1 for the answer there. 2 for G. So that would be a total of 13 points. So you can write what you got out of 13 for that one. Yes? You wrote S? So I'm going to give you the points. Don't do that on the test. I don't know how the AP people would score that, but if it says velocity, use the velocity function. They might say, okay, well, she's plugging it into a function, which is a great idea, but they are going to want to see the V, I think. Yes? Okay, because it equals, I'll accept that. Okay, yes?
For vehicle, I had the 1.7, but I also had 2.275.
Does it change at 2.275? Did anybody else come up with that? I'll check to make sure, but I would say right now, no. I don't think it does change sign there. Yes? Bounds on F should have been 1 to 2. Okay, thank you. Let's double check that. Did you put in absolute value? Okay. So I did this pretty quickly on my calculator yesterday. So I'm going to say that I made it. Did anybody come up with 4.28? Anybody? Okay, so then we're going to say that that's wrong. And you came up with what? We'll go with 0.539 there. Okay. So it's possible when I typed it in, I went from 0 to 3. It's also possible I forgot the absolute value. There's a number of things I could have done differently there. Which is funny because I thought I specifically remember when I looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember to go from 1 to 2 and the absolute value. Okay, so I went, okay, I accidentally typed 0 to 3. There we go. And obviously you can see why I went 0 to 3, right? Those are mistakes that are easily made sometimes on the exam. Okay, we flip it over. Is there a time when r prime of t is equal to 25? So you're looking for r prime. So we're looking at this rate here. And as you notice, you have r of t minus, r of 9 minus r of 5 divided by 9 minus 5. That would be 150 minus 50 over 4, or 100 over 4, which is equal to 25. So we need to see that you found that the slope between those two is 25 somewhere. And so the answer would be yes. And you get 1 point for the answer and showing that it was 25. So those two are combined together. Simply saying yes is not enough. Now, if you did that in your head, but you just didn't write it down, go ahead and give yourself the point. I just want you guys to know on the test, you're going to be expected to do that. Now, the other point that you want to be given here is stating which theorem do you guys know we use here? This is the MVT. Because you were looking for rate, you were looking for a derivative there. So mean value theorem guarantees. Yep. And then this is, must there be a time from 0 to 12 where which the growth is 40, rate of growth 40. So now you're just looking at this. You're not looking at the x values at all. Do you have to cross over 40 there? No. IVT does not apply because R of t is greater than, actually, greater or equal to 50. But as long as you said no and IVT, you are good to go. That would be 1 point. 1 point. They will expect, in order to get you the point in the AP exam, they will expect to see IVT. Yep. Now, to be fair, I did not say justify your answer here, and I should have said that. So if that's what was messing you up, then go give yourself a point. But they will want IVT expressed, yes.
Our test, we have to put IVT and MVT.
Oh, yes. Yes. Intermediate value theorem. Intermediate value theorem says that if you want to go from 4 to 10, you got to cross over 6. Whereas the MVT, it's the rate. Estimate R prime. Another question? Okay. R prime of t over the interval 0 to 12. So the derivative of r over 0 to 12, that's just going to be, when it says estimate, that's going to be slope. So we do r of 12 minus r of 0 over 12 minus 0. And when you do that, you should get 100 over 12. And you could write that however you want. You could write 25 over 3. You could write 8.3 repeating, but that's the estimation. And you should have a label here. If you didn't put it, that's okay, but you definitely do want bacteria per, is it hour or hour squared? Hour squared. They will want the label on the AP exam. If it's not there, they will mark it wrong. Use trapezoidal sum with 4 subintervals. So here's the work that I had expressed out, 1/2 times 2 times 200 plus 100. That was the area of one of the trapezoids. I had another one, which was 1/2 times 3 times 100 plus 150. And then I had 1/2 times 4 times 50 plus 150. And then I had 1/2 times 3 times 300 plus 150. Which one?
With the one,
Yep.
it's, just 50, not
Oh, I even had it right. I had it right there. Yep, thank you. So that should be just 50. Thank you. So hopefully my calculation is correct. I have 1,600 bacteria. And again, this would be, and my guess is that many of you turn to your calculator anyway. This would be a non-calculator problem on the test. So in that situation, you get 2 for the trapezoidal sum. So if you set up the trapezoidal sum correctly, that's worth 2 points there. I'm sorry, 1 for the trapezoidal piece and 1 for the answer. So 1 for trapezoidal and then 1 for the answer. That's generally how that would be scored. So that's 2 points for that problem. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, just 1 point. And that will be for the correct answer in the label. Use the midpoint sum. So midpoint sum should be, we want to see in this situation, should be 5 times 100 plus 7 times 100. And so as you look here, you should end up with a total of 1,500. Oh, I'm sorry, 7 times 150. Can't read my own writing. 150. Bacteria. And that's 1 point for the answer. How did I do it? Yeah, so how many subintervals are we using? 2. So I'm going to go use my 2 subintervals. Okay, so that's 2 intervals. Agreed? So what's the width of this interval? 5. What's the height of this interval? The middle one, right? What's the width of this interval? What's the height of this interval? 150. 1. Right-hand sum to evaluate the approximate average rate which the bacteria is accumulating. Should have 1 over 12 times the integral from 0 to 12 of r of t dt. And it says to use the right hand. I won't go through all the work, but I came up with 154.16 repeating bacteria per hour. So you would have 1 for the integral and 1 for the answer. Anybody else come up with the 154? I'm sorry. So I originally wrote it as 925 divided by 6, and then I wrote it as 154 and 1/6, and then I knew that 1/6 was 1.6 repeating. So 1 for the integral, 1 for the answer, a total there of 10 out of 10. Tally up, see what you got so far, and share with somebody next to you. You got 3 problems so far. We've got 10, we got 13, and 9. That's a total of 32. Share with somebody near you what you got out of 32 so far, and don't be ashamed by your answer. 1 over 12. So it says that average rate, 1 over b minus 6, because, Allie, we are given the rate function. So we're trying to find the average value of that. And would you say that 154 looks like it's about an average? I think so too. All right, let's move on.
What would be a good score on those for the first 3?
You know, it's really hard for me to say what a good score is right now. I would say a good score, if you're doing those like just without using your notes and completely from scratch, I would say a good score out of the 32 would be like, say, 24 or higher. If you're using your notes, you know, So, it's really hard for me to say what good is. I mean, that's part of what I'm using right now is we'll see how you guys do and try to get an idea what good is. Yeah. Am I what? Yeah. So I'm going to just record what you guys got. So you guys can have them back. Yeah. No. Nope. How much gravel arrives in the first 10 hours? You should have 0 to 10 of R of T dt. And you should get 22.485 yards. Sorry? Yeah, so the variable ended up being wrong. So it was x in the problem, and I have t. So whether you have r of x or t or dx, or it doesn't matter to me. Okay, so 1 point for the integral, 1 point for the answer. How much gravel leaves? Well, this is the departure rate. So if that's the departure rate, then how much leaves is 0 to 10 of d of t dt. Which is kind of confusing, isn't it? And I got 20. 1 for the integral, 1 for the answer. To the nearest tenth, how much gravel is at the pit at time is equal to 7? Well, it's your start plus your displacement. And that's going to be the amount that arrives from 0 to 7, so R of T dt. And then minus the amount that departs, 0 to 7 of d of T dt. I want to be clear, if you put these two integrals together, that's fine. You don't have to separate them. Yes? This guy? So I can't state for sure, but if you asked me to specify would they or would they not, my guess is that they would be marking a point off for that. All right, so I got 3,401.61. So it says to the nearest tenth, so 6.2. That's what I got. And what's that? Oh, yes. Okay, so 0.6. Thank you. So to be clear, I asked to the 10th, and they are going to want everything to the 3 decimal places. I don't think that they'll mark it wrong. 1 point for using the 3,400. So if you use the 3,400 and added that, you get a point. If you set up the integral correctly, you get a point. So making sure you had R of T dt, and then and from 0 to 7, and then 1 point for the answer being correct. So you could have gotten 3 out of that. During the first 10 hours, when is the amount of gravel in the pit increasing? That's whenever the rate at which it's arriving is greater than the rate at which it's departing. When is the rate at which it's arriving greater than the rate departing? Or in other words, you're looking for when is R of T minus D of T greater than 0? That's what you want to look for. When is that occurring? And sure enough, it happens from time equals 0 to 2.090. And also from 7.548 to 10. Yep, that's fine. So 1 point for the setup. So at some point you need to show that you're comparing these two or saying it's greater than 0. So 1 point for having some type of appropriate setup and then 1 for the answer. Are we okay there? It says, is the rate at which people are arriving at the gym, at the gym. Looks like somebody just kind of cut and copied a previous problem, huh? Is the rate at which the gravel is arriving increasing or decreasing? So you're wondering what R prime is. Is R prime positive or negative at time equals 4? So you're going to find the derivative of R at time equals 4. And R prime of 4 is equal to negative 0.444. So it is decreasing. The rate is decreasing. And the last one. I thought this was the toughest question for most people. During 10 hours, when is the amount of gravel at the pit at a maximum? That's when R of t minus d of t changes from positive to negative. And that happens at time is equal to 2.090, which you found. Now it's asking, so you get 1 point for that, for the 2.090 for using that within your work. And then the second point you get is for the integral and answer. So the integral would be 3,400 plus the integral from 0 to 2.090 r of t minus d of t dt. Or you could separate it into two integrals. And it happens to be 3,403.266 yards of dirt. Yep. In order to get the point, you had to have both of those correct. Sir? Yes, 1 point here. Thank you. So that's a total of 12 out of 12. I thought that was the toughest of the group. Number 7, find h prime of 1. You should have written down h prime of x is equal to f prime of x times g prime of f of x. So that's the chain rule. So 1 point for using the chain rule. So if I could see in your work that you use the chain rule at some point, and it's correct, then I give you a point there. And then 1 for the answer. And the answer actually comes out to be 1. For letter B, this would require the use of the product rule, which would be 4 over 4x minus 2 times f of x plus the natural log of 4x minus 2 times f prime of x. So you get 1 point for using the product rule, assuming you have that correct. And then the result here actually ends up being undefined. So there's no point for an answer. And the reason why is because I asked you to find k prime of negative 0.5. And if you notice, if you plug negative 0.5 in, you come up with the natural logarithm of a negative number. And you can't take the natural logarithm of a negative number. So my bad, I wrote a stupid problem. Okay, you need a point for this problem, and you need a slope. Hopefully I got this right. I did this one really quick. I got the point as being 1/6. Anybody concur with that? And then I need my slope, so I had to write the derivative, which was the use of the product rule and the chain rule. So I got negative 24 times 2 minus x to the 7th times f of x plus 3 times 2 minus x to the 8th times f prime of x. And I got a slope of negative 42. So if I do the chain rule on the inside, the derivative of the inside is negative 1.
Yep.
Allie, did you concur?
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, I'm going to go with it then.
I got 48 plus 6 in front of them. So like I got negative 48 and then I got 6.
I got negative 48 plus 6 is what I had. Negative 48 plus 6 for a total of negative 42. And so you get one for the point for having 1/6. So if you saw the point was 1/6, get a point there. 1 point for having a correct slope, which is negative 42. And then 1 point for the equation for the line. And the equation for the line would be y minus 6 is equal to negative 42 times x minus 1. So you could just leave it in point slope form. You don't even need to put it in slope intercept form. Isn't that cool? Let r of x be that. Determine r of 5. This thing is the area function. You're simply looking at the area from negative 3 all the way to 5. I counted that area. I got 21. Get 1 point there. The derivative at 3. This is such a great problem. What happens if you take the derivative of r of x? What do you get? You just, yeah, this goes away, right? You just get f of x. So you're just looking at f of 3. What's f of 3? 4, yeah. Does R have a relative maximum? No. R prime, which is equal to f, never changes from positive to negative. 1 point for no, 1 point for that correct reasoning. The reasoning needs to be pretty darn close to what I've written right there. That would be fine. That would be perfect reasoning as well. They would say f of x is always greater than 0. That means it doesn't change sign. 10 points. Last one. So I basically that all the way across.
Oh, it does.
Yes. 1 point for that. Sketch the solution that goes through 0, -1. So I'm looking right there. So I want to follow kind of the slope from there. So you should have something that looks kind of like that. That'll be 1 point for that. What? Right here?
Oh, through the point.
Okay, so there was a mistake in this problem, and I apologize for that. I meant to delete this piece right here. So we'll see if it affected your result or not. I said that the point that it passed through was 0, 3. Did you use that point or did you use 0, 2? Anybody use 0, 2? Okay, good. So 0, 3 should be fine. The slope, well, you simply just plug in 0, 3. Just plug in 0, 3 to that, and you should get -1. This differential equation tells you your slope. Just plug in 0, 3, and you get -1. Write your equation for your line. You have y is equal to -x plus 3 then. So you have 1 point if you got the equation for the line correct. That would require that you have this as your point, and that is your slope, y equals -x plus 3. Then it says use it to approximate f of 0.2. So you just plug in 0.2, so y is equal to -0.2 plus 3. You should get 2.8. So one answer for the 2.8. And finally, find the particular solution to y equals f of x, the differential equation, with the initial condition, y of 0 is equal to 3. And so you should have this set up, dy over dx is equal to 2xy. You then separate your variables. You should have dy over y is equal to 2x dx. 1 point there for separating variables correctly. Take an antiderivative, and you should get natural log of y is equal to x squared plus c dx. Whoop, no dx anymore, sorry. 1 point for the correct antiderivatives. I don't know what they'll mark there. I won't mark it wrong, but I don't know what they'll mark. Create a base of e, and you would get y is equal to some constant times e to the x squared. That's worth a point as well. When you go to solve, you should come up with 3 is equal to c. So your final solution would be y is equal to 3e to the x squared. A point there for a total of 8. A grand total on the whole kit caboodle of 62. Score it. Share it with somebody and come around and see how you did. Last one was worth 8, I think.